أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الرحمن الرحيم. مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May God's peace, mercy, and blessings be upon you, your families, this beautiful province, and this great country. We are honored to be hosting the Premier, Jason Kenney, here and with the Justice Minister on behalf of the Al Rashid Mosque and the Muslim community. We are here at the Al Rashid Mosque at a very difficult time. As we all know, the suffering of the Afzal family, victims of a terrorist crime in London, Ontario. And we are very pleased that this province and the leadership of this province is taking the matter seriously and coming to the masjid, to the Muslim community, and standing in solidarity. And I want to thank the Premier and the Justice Minister on behalf of the Muslim community for doing so. This is a time where we come together. This is a time where we stand together. And we must remember that the Afzal family was like any other family. They had a father, a mother, a grandmother, a beautiful 15-year-old daughter, and a young child, 9 years old, who was still in critical condition. However, Islamophobia is not isolated to this one incident, but rather there is a pattern, and there is an alarming pattern. I would like to end my talk with a prayer for them, a prayer for those who have fallen due to white supremacy, a prayer for those who have fallen due to white supremacy and colonialism and imperialism, a prayer for those who have yet to have their deceased ones even given the dignity of being named, the 215 children who are still unnamed, and the thousands of children who have yet to be named from the likely unmarked graves across this country. We have much prayer to do, we have much healing to do, and we have much action to do.
Thank you very much, Sayyidina. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning to you and everybody here from the Al Rashid Mosque who are joining us for your welcome. Thank you to Noor Al-Hanadi. Thank you to Jim Abagoush, Walid Zain, Basim Kadri, Omar Asif, and others from the community. I want to also thank Minister of Justice and Solicitor General Casey Madhu and member of the legislature Mickey Amery for joining me here today. We came here in part just on behalf of Alberta's government to, in a personal and direct way, express our most profound condolences to the entire Alberta Muslim community following the terrible mass murder, hate crime, and act of terrorism against members of the London, Ontario Muslim community, the Afzal and Salman families. Thank you for opening us with a prayer, Sayyidina, and we join our prayers to yours in praying for the souls of the four innocent people whose lives were so brutally taken simply because they were walking in a park in a peaceable Canadian city on a nice spring evening. The notion that they were targeted by a hateful individual simply because of who they were and of their faith, how they were dressed, because they represented the other, is a brutal reminder to us all of the reality that many Canadians cannot completely take for granted their own security. And this is a national shame. It is one that we must all address. Alberta's legislature did so in a motion expressing solidarity with the Muslim community, condemning this brutal act of anti-Muslim violence, and in rededicating ourselves to fight Islamophobia and all forms of hatred and bigotry, who said that it was the family that had been targeted was a family just like his, that looked like his, that prayed like him, and which was attacked while going for an evening walk, just as his family does every night. It underscored how this attack has affected Muslims all across Canada, and while we reach out in prayer and hope for the recovery of the young boy who has survived the attack, we must be moved by the notion that Muslims from every part of Canada feel vulnerable, our neighbors. And I call on all Albertans to reach out to their Muslim friends and neighbors, and even if there are Muslims in your workplace, Muslims in your neighborhood who you have never really gotten to know, now is a time to reach out to them, to get to know them, and just to wrap an arm around them and to show your personal support, to show your compassion, to suffer with them through this time of difficulty, of loss, and of mourning. Those who seek to make Muslims somehow feel unwelcome in Canada do not know our own history. They certainly don't know our Alberta history, because in many ways, the history of Islam in Canada, the cradle of it is right here in Alberta, right here in Edmonton. This mosque, the Al Rashid Mosque, where we are today, is the descendant of the first mosque built in Canada in the 1930s, and only the second mosque built in North America, right here, by hardworking Lebanese immigrants from the Bekaa Valley. One of the families who helped to build this mosque was the Shaban family. And the son of that family went on to become the first Muslim elected anywhere in Canada, anywhere in the British Commonwealth, and served in the cabinet of Premier Lougheed. The first Muslim elected to the Parliament of Canada was an Edmonton MP, Rahim Jaffer. The first Muslim elected as a major city mayor in Canada is Calgary's Mayor Nahid Nenshi. The first Muslim vice-regal representative of the Queen is our own wonderful, honorable Salma Lakhani. This Muslim community is not a new community. It is a community with deep roots of over a century in this province. It is a critical part of the fabric of this province, and we cannot allow anyone to tear that fabric apart. Alberta's government is acting. Yesterday, Minister Madhu announced the creation of a dedicated provincial hate crimes coordination unit. This new unit will work in tandem with a community liaison to improve law enforcement efforts and achieve fair and just prosecutorial outcomes in hate crime cases. And today, Alberta's government is keeping a commitment to help groups protect themselves from hate-motivated crimes. The Alberta Security Infrastructure Program will provide funds to vulnerable community facilities that have experienced or are at risk of being targeted by violence or vandalism. This funding will help to pay for security enhancements to their facilities and to provide training for their staff. We anticipate that important facilities where communities gather will qualify, such as mosques, synagogues, gurdwaras, mandars, churches, faith-based schools, and other places that have been or may be targeted for hate crimes. The program is actually modeled on a grant program of the same name, which I helped to establish at the federal level and which has helped to finance security infrastructure for hundreds of faith and other community organizations. Now, some would think that acts of this kind of violence don't happen in Canada, but last week's mass murder in London was a terrible reminder of how many communities in Canada feel that their day-to-day security and safety cannot be taken for granted. So let us be clear. All Albertans must be able to live in a province where it is safe to practice their faith, to exercise their freedom of religion. Albertans must feel safe to walk in their neighborhood and not fear for their safety because of the color of their skin.
When I drove up to this beautiful mosque this morning, I couldn't help but marvel once again at its beauty and the spirituality it exudes in and out. Sadly, though, it's an unfortunate fact of life that places of worship like this can be targets of hate-motivated crimes, including right here in our province. Vandals painted graffiti on the Bethel Israel Synagogue in 2015. A Calgary Sikh Gurdwara was vandalized in 2016. And this very mosque we are standing in front of has been a constant target of multiple vandals over the years. Graffiti, property damage, intimidating threats, and acts of violence all have serious psychological and physical cost on the people who work and worship at these facilities. Not to mention its financial cost and its human toll. They should not be asked to bear the cost of preventing such damage all on their own. Through the Alberta Security Infrastructure Program, our government, your government, would help facilitate targeted facilities targeted by hate-motivated vandalism, violence, theft, and harassment. Such facilities include places of worship, such as this beautiful mosque, temples, synagogues, Gurdwara, and churches, community centers like Indigenous Friendship Centers and drop-in centers, ceremonial facilities and monuments used by an identifiable group. Grant applicants will be able to apply to two streams of funding. The first will provide up to $10,000 to complete security assessment and for staff to undergo specialized security training and education. The second will provide up to $90,000 for the purchase and installation of security equipment, such as alarm systems, fences, gates, security window film, cameras, motion detectors, and anti-graffiti sealant. The initial grant call will take place in this fall, and we will provide full details on eligibility and application process in the coming weeks. For now, though, let me say I am very proud to lead the men and women in the Justice Department that takes hate crime and racial violence seriously. That means not just prosecuting these crimes, but doing what is necessary to prevent them from happening. My goal as Justice Minister is to ensure that we prevent them before they occur.